There's a special kind of embarrassment in the NBA, the kind where even the head coach looks like he's ready to clock out, grab a jersey, and check himself into the game because nothing else is working. That was Doug Christie. His face said everything after Sacramento got humiliated by 33 points on their own floor. And not by a powerhouse, not by a top seed, but by the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young. A team missing its superstar walked into Sacramento and played like they owned the building. And honestly, if that loss shocked you, then you haven't been watching the Sacramento Kings this season. Because somehow, in a league with the Nets' chaos, the Pelicans' inconsistency, the injury-riddled Pacers, and the Wizards being the Wizards, the Kings might actually be the most hopeless team in the NBA right now. And it's not even close. At least the other bad teams have excuses. Injuries, rebuilds, youth, internal resets. But Sacramento, this was supposed to be their window, their moment. Just 2 years ago, this franchise had more momentum than they'd seen in 2 decades. The fan base finally believed again. The team finally had direction. They even had their cute little beam rallying cry. And then, they burned it all down. They built around a trio nobody asked for. DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, and Zach LaVine. 3 players with major defensive issues, and 2 guys who can't consistently space the floor. And to make things worse, even DeRozan's scoring, the one part of his game everyone trusted, has fallen off a cliff. Just look at what he did against the Hawks. Nothing short of alarming. And when you call them the most pathetic team in the league, just take a look at their last 4 games. That stretch alone tells the entire story. Over those 4 matchups, Sacramento ranks dead last, 30th in defense, 30th in net rating, and they're sitting at 29th in offensive rating. That's almost impossible for a team full of veterans. While rebuilding teams are giving minutes to young talent and waiting for stars to return, the Kings are waiting for what exactly? This roster was built to compete this season. But compete for what? No one knows. I thought they'd at least win an ugly 35 games. I thought veterans would give them a baseline of competence. But no, they're not mediocre. They're worse. Much worse. The saddest part in all of this? Sacramento can't blame anyone else. Every disaster they're facing right now is a direct result of their own decisions. Just take one look at the transformation of their roster. In 2022, their top 6 players in minutes played were young, explosive, hungry, and built to run. A dynamic, fast-paced team centered around 2 all-star level point guards who could push the tempo, create, and win games with energy. Fast forward to today, and that same franchise somehow convinced itself that replacing that young core with a lineup of aging veterans, players who had already peaked and never truly achieved anything during their primes, would make them contenders. And that's not even a cheap shot. The resume speaks for itself. Aside from a deep run years ago, this group has rarely stepped up when pressure hits. Yet Sacramento looked at all of that and said, yes, this is our future. And the worst part? This entire collapse was avoidable. Since 2006, the Kings have only had 2 winning seasons. Just 2. And both came under one man, Mike Brown. He took a 30-win team in 2022 and immediately elevated them to 48 wins the next season. Then followed it up with another strong 46-win year. For most franchises, that's the foundation to build on. For Sacramento, that was apparently the moment to panic, because they fired Mike Brown 30 games into his 3rd season. Think about how wild that is. A team comfortable being irrelevant for 2 straight decades suddenly ran out of patience with the best coach they've had in over a generation. Even Steve Kerr couldn't believe it. He straight up said he was shocked. And honestly, he had every right to be. Especially when you look at what Mike Brown is doing now in New York, transforming them into one of the league's most efficient and dangerous offenses. But the Kings didn't just mishandle their coach, they also botched their relationship with their franchise player. After getting traded, De'Aaron Fox finally said the quiet part out loud. You fire the coach and you don't do an interview, so all the blame was on me. I felt the organization didn't have my back. That's all you need to know about how things were being run behind the scenes. A star guard and a winning head coach, both thrown under the bus. And as if that wasn't enough, Sacramento doubled down on their mistakes. They looked at the Chicago roster built around Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, a team that couldn't even break through the Eastern Conference, and somehow decided to copy that formula in the much tougher West. That logic alone tells you everything. But the chaos didn't stop at big trades. Every small decision was just as baffling. Trading away 2 second-round picks for Jonas Valanciunas midseason, only to flip him for one of the least impactful players in the league just to save cap space. Giving up a second-round pick for Jake LaRavia, only to lose him immediately in free agency. Fans literally begging for Keon Ellis to get minutes because nothing else was working. At every level, every move, every choice, the Kings kept choosing wrong. The part is, even Doug Christie isn't off the hook here. He inherited a roster full of chaos, but even then, he ignored the one guy who actually brings life to this dead rotation, Keon Ellis. Every time that kid touches the court, the energy shifts. He hits shots, he defends like he cares, and when Christie was finally forced to play him against the Hawks, Ellis straight up looked like the best player in a Kings jersey that night. And still, they avoided him for weeks. And the real disaster? The so-called Big Three. Even calling them that feels disrespectful to real Big Threes in NBA history. These are their highest-paid players, their supposed leaders. And the moment you look at the on-off numbers, it's embarrassing. Jab players co-bench Cartejo, the team magically becomes better. That's not leadership. That's Charlotte Bobcats energy. Nobody expects Zach LaVine to suddenly become prime Jordan. DeMar DeRozan is in the twilight of his career. But Domantas Sabonis? This is supposed to be his peak. This is the guy people once compared to Nikola Jokic, the guy some analysts said was better than Sengun and even Chet. But without Mike Brown's system and without De'Aaron Fox setting him up, Sabonis has completely fallen apart. His playmaking has vanished. His efficiency is tanking. His foul rate is sky high. And defensively, total traffic cone. Teams go hunting for him like it's free food. And just when you think it can't get worse, reports pop up saying Sabonis is unhappy with his offensive role. Imagine that. The same guy many believe helped push out Mike Brown, now complaining about his touches under the new coach. Kings fans have every right to say, bro, what exactly do you want? But to be clear, this isn't just about Sabonis. The blame is everywhere. Outside of Russ, Keon Ellis, the rookies, and Malik Monk, who, by the way, they tried to trade and have randomly reduced his role, the rest of this roster has been flat-out disappointing. No urgency, no identity, no leadership, just confusion wrapped in wasted potential. This was supposed to be the season they pushed upward, showed the league they were here to stay. Instead, they've spent the past week looking like the worst team in the NBA. And honestly, I don't see a quick turnaround coming. Not with this structure, not with this direction. Kings fans, what can anyone even say at this point? You deserve better. Your stars deserved support. Your coach deserved patience. Your franchise deserved stability. All I can say is, I'm sorry.